My mom's furious because I won't donate my kidney to my reckless brother, who's dying without a transplant. Guilt's tearing me apart, but with family pressure mounting and my own fears growing, I finally stood up and walked out of the chaos. Hey everyone, my name's Sky. I'm 28 years old, and I'm honestly at my wit's end right now. I've been lurking on Reddit for a while, but this is my first time posting because I seriously need some outside perspective. My family's been driving me up the wall over this whole situation, and I just don't know if I'm being unreasonable or if they're the ones out of line. So, here's the deal. My mom's been laying into me nonstop because I said no to donating my kidney to my brother Miles. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but hear me out, because it's not as simple as it seems. Let's start with some background. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. There's me, then Miles, who's 25, and our little sister Freya, who's 22. Growing up, we were pretty tight-knit, even though Miles and I have always had our differences. He's the kind of guy who's charming when he wants to be, but he's also got this reckless streak that's gotten him into trouble more times than I can count. Like, back in high school, he'd skip classes, party all night, and somehow still manage to talk his way out of any real consequences. Me? I was the responsible one, good grades, part-time job, always picking up the slack. Freya's kind of in the middle. She's sweet, a little naive, and tends to avoid conflict like the plague. Our mom's always been the type to hold the family together, or at least that's how she sees herself. She's super emotional, cries at the drop of a hat, and has this way of making you feel guilty even when you haven't done anything wrong. Dad's quieter, doesn't say much, but when he does, it's usually to back mom up. They've always had a soft spot for Miles, though. He's the golden boy in their eyes, even when he messes up. I don't think they mean to play favorites, but it's been obvious to me and Freya for years. So, about a year ago, Miles started having health problems. At first, it was just random stuff, tired all the time, headaches, nothing too crazy. He brushed it off, typical Miles, until he passed out at work one day and ended up in the ER. Turns out, his kidneys were failing. Doctors said it was chronic kidney disease, probably from years of neglecting his health, drinking too much, eating like crap, and ignoring every warning sign. He's been on dialysis for months now, and it's been rough on him. I get it, I really do. Seeing him hooked up to those machines, looking weaker every day, it's awful. But here's where things get messy. A few months back, the doctors told us Miles needs a transplant. They put him on the donor list, but apparently, it could take years, and his condition's getting worse. Mom started asking around the family to see if anyone was a match. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured they'd test everyone and go from there. Well, they did test us, and guess what? I'm a match. Not Freya, not mom or dad, just me. When mom found out, she was over the moon, like it was some kind of miracle. She called me crying, saying, "Sky, you can save him. You're his only hope." That's when the pressure started. At first, it was subtle, little comments like, "You're so lucky you can help your brother," or "I know you'll do the right thing." But I wasn't so sure. I mean, it's not like donating a kidney is some small favor. It's major surgery, recovery takes weeks, and there's risks, infections, complications, even long-term stuff like high blood pressure. I started doing my own research, reading up on Reddit threads and medical sites, trying to figure out if this was something I could handle. The more I read, the more freaked out I got. I'm not a doctor, but I know enough to understand it's not just pop out a kidney and you're fine. I tried talking to mom about it, laying out my worries. I told her I wasn't saying no yet, just that I needed time to think. Big mistake. She flipped out, sobbing and yelling about how I was abandoning Miles, how I'd never understand a mother's love until I had kids of my own. She kept saying, "He's your brother, Sky. How can you even hesitate?" Dad didn't say much, just gave me this disappointed look that cut deeper than mom's words. Freya tried to stay neutral, but I could tell she was leaning toward mom's side. She kept saying stuff like, "I'd do it if I were a match," which didn't exactly help. Here's where another problem comes in. Miles and I aren't exactly on great terms. We've had our share of fights over the years, mostly because he's always been kind of selfish. Like, 3 years ago, I lent him $500 to cover his rent because he'd blown his paycheck on some stupid weekend trip. He promised to pay me back, but I never saw a dime. Then there was the time he crashed my car, borrowed it without asking, totaled it, and somehow made it my fault for stressing him out, about needing it back. He's never apologized for any of it. So yeah, I love him because he's my brother, but I don't trust him, and I don't feel like we're close enough for me to just jump at the chance to give him an organ. Mom doesn't see it that way. To her, family's everything, no matter what. She keeps bringing up how she'd give both her kidneys if she could, how she carried us for 9 months, how we owe each other unconditional support. I get that she's scared for Miles. I'm scared too, but it's like she doesn't care what this means for me. Every time I try to explain my side, she shuts me down with guilt trips. If he dies, Sky, it'll be on you, she said once. That one hit hard. I couldn't sleep for days after that, just replaying it in my head. Then there's my boyfriend, Adrian. He's been my rock through all this, but even he's starting to crack under the pressure. He's 30, works in construction, and he's the most level-headed guy I know. When I first told him about the kidney thing, he listened, didn't judge, just asked what I wanted to do. I told him I was torn. Part of me feels like I should do it because it's Miles, but another part of me is terrified and honestly kind of resentful. Adrian said he'd support me either way, but he did point out something I hadn't thought about. What if something goes wrong with the surgery and I'm the one who ends up sick? We've been talking about starting a family someday, and he's worried about how this could affect that. It's not like he's telling me no, but I can tell he's not thrilled about the idea. Last week, things hit a breaking point. Mom called a family meeting at their house. Me, Freya, Miles, Adrian, the whole crew. I thought maybe we'd talk it out like adults, but nope. It was an ambush. Mom started off all teary-eyed, thanking me for considering it, then Miles chimed in. He looked awful, pale, shaky, bags under his eyes, and I felt this pang of guilt just seeing him. He said, Sky, I know we've had our issues, but I need you. I don't want to die. Hearing that, my stomach dropped. I didn't know what to say, so I just sat there while Mom went on about how I'm his only shot, how the doctors say a living donor's better than waiting for the list. I finally snapped. I stood up and said, Look, I'm not saying no forever, but I'm not ready to say yes either. This is my body, my life, and I need you all to stop acting like I'm some monster for wanting to think it through. Mom lost it, started screaming about how selfish I am, how I've always been jealous of Miles, how I'd regret this if he didn't make it. Freya tried to calm her down, but it was chaos. Miles just stared at me, and I couldn't tell if he was mad or hurt or both. Adrian stepped in, told everyone to back off, and we left. Since then, it's been radio silence from Mom and Freya. Miles texted me once, I get it, but I'm scared, which made me feel like garbage. Adrian's been great, but I can tell he's stressed too. He keeps asking if I'm okay, like he's waiting for me to break down. Work's been a nightmare because I can't focus, and my friends are split. Some say I should do it. Others say it's my choice and my family's being unfair. There's more to it, too. Money's tight right now. I'm a graphic designer, freelancing mostly, and I can't afford to take weeks off for surgery and recovery. I've got rent, bills, and I'm still paying off student loans. Mom doesn't get that. She thinks I'm just making excuses. Plus, there's this nagging voice in my head that keeps asking why Miles didn't take better care of himself. I know that's harsh, and I feel like a jerk for even thinking it, but it's there. If he'd listened to the doctors years ago, maybe we wouldn't be here. I keep going back to when we were kids. Miles used to follow me everywhere, copying everything I did. We'd build forts in the backyard, sneak snacks from the kitchen, laugh until we couldn't breathe. But somewhere along the way, we grew apart. He got wild. I got serious. And now we're here, with this huge thing between us. I don't want him to die. I'd never wish that on anyone, let alone my brother, but I also don't know if I can do this. The surgery itself scares me. Yeah, but it's more than that. It's the idea of giving up a part of myself for someone who's never really been there for me. Does that make me a bad person? I've been replaying that family meeting over and over. Mom's face when she called me selfish, Miles' voice when he said he didn't want to die, the way Freya just sat there like she didn't know whose side to take. I keep wondering if I'm overreacting, if I'm letting old grudges cloud my judgment. But then I think about my life, my health, my future, my plans with Adrian, and I don't know if I can risk all that. It's like no matter what I choose, I'm screwing someone over. So that's where I'm at. I'm stuck, torn between guilt and fear and this nagging feeling that I shouldn't have to justify saying no. My family's acting like I'm the worst person alive, but I don't know if they're right. Am I being unreasonable here? Am I the one screwing up? I just need some clarity, because I can't keep going like this.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our daily updates.